Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Endurance Lab, where you can train smart, learn more, and get results. I'm here with for the coaches from the Endurance Lab, and welcome to Coach's Corner. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Jason. Good morning.
Hey, there you go. So I've got Taya on the line. I've got Mitch Dangermon, Ian Murray, and myself, Jason Flores. Andrea is out today, but she will be back next week to bring us more information. So we're going to jump right in. We've got a lot of information to cover, so we're going to go straight into the lab. So I'm going to pass it quickly to Ian, and we're going to talk about the strength that we've been gaining over the last 2 weeks. Ian, bring it to us.
All right, thanks, Jason. So we've been covering a number of different things in the last 2 weeks, but our big focus has been on our core. If you watch any of the videos, you've seen that everything we're doing is about core because that's what supports the body. As we continue through this lab, we're going to be working on a little more explosiveness, and that's what we've got coming up. Some of that explosiveness is designed for you to be able to get out of the saddle and go, or hammer down the power when you need to and get those quick surges going. Way we're going to be doing that is our Tabatas and the dynamic exercises and body weight core number 1 this week. It's important, though, as we do it, we focus on good form. You have to have near excellent form to do this, so it's important you do it slowly and focus on what you're doing. And then you have good shoes. If you're going to use running shoes, don't use those for dynamic exercises. I prefer you use some shoes that are better for cross training exercises or even for strength. Basketball shoes to a certain extent are pretty good. I actually do them barefoot, but the running shoes tend to give you a little bit different support, and it's not quite the best for jumping. And that's what dynamic exercise is going to all be about. And on that side, with our dynamic exercises, when we're doing our jumping, we've got to make sure, and I'll put up the video, we have soft knees. Soft knees are going to be key to that, and I'll explain all of that as we in the video that I'll post this weekend. For those of you who got through the workouts this week, the core yoga Tabatas, I hope everyone enjoyed that. That was a little bit of strength and stretching. And the continuous core circuit, which everyone should have done yesterday, today, or tomorrow. That's a good, fun workout. And I know Jason really liked doing it, and he asked me to put it in 3 more times. But that's one, if you can integrate some version of that, and Taya's going to go into what her workout was. If you can integrate some version of what those workouts were, you're definitely going to see a lot of strength in that core, and you're going to see a big improvement later in the season in your ability to ride and ride hard.
No, I definitely think this transition into the second week has definitely been more inspiring. We know some of the movements we're doing body core, a second time coming up. So I think it will get a little bit easier because these are movements, again, that we had done a week before and kind of putting them together. And I think the videos are working well. We've gotten really good comments there. But Taya, talk to us about the daily stuff that you posted, as well as what we're thinking about moving forward with these exercises that we've put together.
So the daily core workout that I put out there is fairly short, about 15 minutes long. It's something that it's easy to do on a daily basis. It's something that doesn't require any equipment at all. And so I hope you've had the chance to check it out. If you haven't, please do. It is a no crunches core workout. I've had back problems, knee problems, and shoulder problems. So I, over the years, learned how to adapt to those. So that is a very friendly routine for most people. And I will also be putting up a stretching for cyclists, another 15, 17-minute video that you can do real time with the basic stretches that will help after a hard workout or a ride.
That's great. No, I think we have seen our riders share this with their families, their friends. It's definitely getting good views, so a lot of people are using it. I think it's a great resource. If you haven't checked it out, check out the Endurance Lab YouTube channel. All the videos are there. You can get an idea of kind of the things we're talking about. Ian does a great job at demonstrating, and we're going to try to do better and better every week to make it so that all our riders can do it. Whatever level that you're at, we're going to try to make sure that we have different versions or modifications. And if you don't have all the equipment, we're going to try to find a way so that everybody can find a way. Because even if you're not doing it, the full out or what's prescribed, you're essentially scaling it down. That's totally appropriate because you're getting the work done and you're working those muscles that we're trying to target so that you can get the strength that you need off the bike. So don't feel discouraged or that you're not doing the right thing, because doing any of it is going to move yourself forward.
Hey, and Jason,
all right.
I want to
go ahead.
I want to add one thing on Taya's daily core workout video. The important part for people to really get on that one is, and she highlights it great in the beginning of the video, this can be used as your warm up to getting on the bike, or your warm up to your run, or even just as your strength workout. So the days we don't have a strength workout, this is a great thing to do because you can work your core every single day, not full gas, but you can work your core every single day and gain some benefit out of that without having the residual fatigue that you would have, say, if you were trying to bike every single day hard. Your core, you can hit it for 15 minutes, and especially that the kind of video that she has there is something you can do on your off days where you're not hitting the core really hard. And I think you're going to see huge benefits on that. That can definitely ramp up your ability to gain core strength.
No, I definitely agree, because of the way the structures are, the muscles, and the way they fatigue and the way they recover. You'll find that, hitting them more often a lot of times could be useful. And that's one of the reasons why the hours or the TSS or the stress that we're putting into this week into this block isn't very high. There's no way that you can have high TSS or high stress or high hours of riding and still focus on these things. So remember that. It could feel like it's not as much riding as you do in season, but there's a reason for that, to give you some breathing room to do some of these extra things that we don't normally do in season. That was great. All right, so moving on to Mitch and talking about base work in the lab and kind of what we're doing this next week and this last week.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason. So, we're continuing really a lot of that zone 2 focus. You've got your zone 2 ride earlier in the week. What I've also done is I've started doing some of my warm-ups for my strength workouts on the bike, so I get a little bit more zone 2 and maybe extend them a little bit. I just got done with a group workout on Zwift, leading the Strength 646 workout, which was really the inverse of last week's high cadence. This one was low cadence steps, so really a chance to improve the strength in your legs while also still focusing on form. So I was really stressing with riders, make sure that you're not mashing those pedals. Make sure you've got a nice full round, smooth pedal stroke. Try to eliminate all the dead spots and really concentrate at that slow cadence, your form and staying even in the saddle, not bouncing. So that was really the focus there. And then I haven't done it yet. I know some of you guys have, but we've got our sweet spot workout again at the end of the week. Sweet spot is so important this time of year. It's a really efficient workout. Really, you'll see it built through all our plans, but it's such an efficient way to target the systems. We're already at that 90% of your FTP. Great balance of intensity and volume. You can repeat it week in, week out, and you'll end up with a much stronger aerobic engine and higher FTP.
Yeah, absolutely. This sweet spot, this spot of kind of just right below threshold is an area that you'll find, like Mitch said, in all of our plans. But what you'll also find is that it's a very thought out process. From last week's variations to this week's 1233 to moving forward into the weeks, it'll allow you to do longer and longer periods of sweet spot, putting those together and essentially gathering you more of that time under stress and be able to use that. And this is right around threshold, right below threshold is where you should be when you're with the right group of riders. This is the spot that you should be riding. You're not going to be, above threshold anaerobic for, minutes, 8-10 minutes at a time. It's going to be at this threshold when you're riding with that group that fits, the pace that you guys should all be going to. And it's essentially that spot that feels comfortable. So it's a great place. And, with riders that have come from doing 12 minutes straight, 15 minutes straight, having some variations that we have put into this 1233, I think you'll really enjoy it. I just finished it last night with the group, and everyone did like the change-ups. It got people talking about and looking forward to when that rest was going to be. So really, really great workout. All right, next up we've got Taya with the skills on the bike and kind of layering on top of some of the high cadence comments that Mitch had, but tell us a little bit about that in the middle of the week here.
Right. So as Mitch pointed out, we had introduced this week the low cadence intervals. We had in the first week a focus on high cadence and single-legged drills. We're going to be repeating those throughout the duration of this lab. Those are important skills, obviously, to have. And so mixing them up, you'll see more coming up next week and the following weeks. And a question that came up in the forum from Maggie was, so when do I use low cadence or when do I use high cadence? How do I decide if I'm out on a ride or a race? How do I plan on using my cadence? And the rule of thumb here, and it's a great question, by the way, the rule of thumb here is you should always aim for high cadence. And I'm not talking about 100 RPMs, but you should always aim for being above 85 RPMs when you ride. Then you will, in the course of your ride or race, have moments where you're going to be forced to go into low cadence because you're going over a steep hill, or you are attacking, or you're trying to close a gap. And so having the strength to be able to turn the pedals at those moments is where the low cadence workouts are targeting. Any other comments from the coaches on this?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've seen, and we cover this in our skills and drills periodically that we do on Wednesday nights, the low cadence, high cadence, especially for newer people, they tend to go that low cadence. But once you get adapted to that 85, roughly 85 to 95, somewhere around there cadence, you learn that you can respond quicker to changes in pace. When you're doing that gear mashing, most people find that if the pace changes quickly, they can't respond, which means it's a much bigger match to burn, or a longer match to burn, to get back into the group. The same as if the pace slows a little bit, they find themselves overshooting the front. Whereas if you're able to ride in that 85, 90, 95 cadence, you can pick it up, slow it down, pick it up, slow it down. You can do what I like to call micro adjustments to where you are in your efforts that you're putting in. And that gives you much greater advantage because you're conserving energy, as you're not having to put the gas on, take the gas off, put the gas on, take the gas off.
That's a great point. The other thing you can do with riding at 85, 95 RPMs is you can quickly accelerate. And if you're doing these drills of 100 RPMs, coming back to them from time to time, if you're out there and you need to accelerate, you might not need to shift to a very hard gear to do it. You can increase your cadence to 100 and you see your power go up without as much cost on your legs in terms of fatigue. So a 10, 15 second acceleration that you can do just by increasing the cadence.
Yeah, and I think that's the key there. So like when you're in a group and you guys are all, the whole group is together, and then all of a sudden the pace goes up, it's actually quicker to spin up the way a lot of these workouts do versus everyone clicking, changing gears and trying to get on top of a gear. You'll find yourself kind of not finding the right gear, or having to put out too much effort essentially, and try to get with that group. Ian, what were you going to say right there?
There's also yeah, Jason, the other part of that too, and you just hit the point great for me, is about talking about shifting gears. And if you're rolling at a lower cadence with higher strain on the chain, it's much more difficult to shift. Whereas if you're able to ride at that 100, 105 RPMs for a shorter period of time, you can accelerate or maybe sprint through the same gear longer, where someone else has to change their gears. And when you change your gears under strain or under duress on it, you're much more likely to have a mechanical incident, whether it's a drop chain, broken chain, or any of those other issues that come with it. Whereas if you can start in a gear that you're pushing at 85 and you're ramping it up to about 100, 105, 110 as you're finishing off the sprint, then you didn't burn extra energy through shifting and you didn't risk a mechanical.
Absolutely. Good point.
Yeah. So in addition then to the other topic here that for the lab this week is mental skills. So we have our mental skills coach, Nate Last. He's an outstanding coach. He has been helping us in the other labs. We've had fantastic results. Our riders have had very positive feedback. So really go check out his intro video and take advantage of the opportunity to ask him questions and learn from Nate. It's, I know we all know the shut up legs saying, right? Shut up legs and just do it. But really, there's so much more to that. And it's not just shutting up the legs. It's really, you're going to be having a hard time and learning how to work with your mind and not shutting it down, but really shifting focus and things that you can do that can really help you on your races and workouts.
I want to tag on that a little bit, Jason, because I used what Nate had told me, because I used to be a stereotypical bang your head against the wall until the wall breaks or your head breaks and just pound through it. And you just win on grit and toughness, and you can, and that's part of it. You have to have that toughness and the grit to get up there in the front end of the race. But some of the tips he gave me about how to think about things and how to work in the moment and how to deal with the some of the smaller issues that if you just tell your brain to shut up, those are going to come up and pop you later on in the race. That helped me a lot in Miami in November when I did my race there, because I was blowing up a little bit in the heat and in the wind. And I was able to just basically focus on some of these things Nate had told me about. Hey, look at where you are now. Let's focus on getting those small improvements. Let's, think of that recovery as a time, not as a blowing up, but as a time to get yourself back into it. And then you can pick it back up. And all of those little tricks he gave me and tools helped out quite a bit. I ended up having a much better back half of the run, and I ended up getting a much better position out of it because of what he had pushed to us in the last lab. So definitely something that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah, definitely. Just wanted to kind of piggyback on that. It's something that I've brought into some of the broadcasts that I do at the Odivas race, and gotten some really good feedback from the riders. We're like, that was something I really wish I could hear in the middle of a race. And I just thought it would be novel to hear it from the commentary. And I got some comments back. We're like, wow, that was really good. And I want to hear more about that. And so it's just funny, about mental training and that sort of thing. And it's always fun to hear about Chris's, my other commentaries, mental training that he does. So always a fun conversation. All right, so that's what we have coming up this week in the lab. So if you guys have any comments, jump into the forum, let us know what's going on. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what's going on. Post up those post-ride workouts. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us what you're feeling. That's what we want to hear. And then I guess going into the hot topics this week, we are going to dig into pretty much what's going on in the forum, and we really want you guys to use this as a tool. And I know it's a transition between what you have normally done, maybe, or kind of out of the norm. But like we said at the beginning, this is kind of your place. It's your chance to get away from like the social noise, to allow you to go with the riders that are doing the things that you're doing. They're in this. They're trying to get information. So go to the Endurance Lab forum and kind of utilize it. So and let us know if there's an easier way to get to it. If there's something that we can make easier, or accessibility, or not understanding how to use the forum, we could do that too. So just somehow get a message to us and let us know, I'm having trouble with this, that, or the other. So, reaching out to the coaches, with the people that you've worked on a little bit one-on-one, how do you feel that they're liking the forum, and how do you feel that they're using it and accessing it? Just a couple tips here for our users and for our lab riders. Yep.
Yeah. So the one of the things I've seen is there still is kind of a posting in one spot. Once people see a one forum section is going with posts, everything will get started posted in there. So it still has the Facebook hangover, but I think we're starting to see a little bit more as more threads get created, and the threads have a complete different idea behind it. We're seeing more activity with that. Still, I think in its nascent stages.
Yeah, I think it's definitely new. So go in there, and the coaches are trying to come up with good headers and to try to talk about week 2 or week 3 or the strength workouts. Jump in, make a comment, even if it's quick and easy. Jump in, click reply at the bottom. If you want to add something to someone else's comment, you work with that comment and you hit reply, or just scroll down to the bottom and hit reply the same way you would as we use in other platforms, and be able to add some information or just a couple words, being, wow, that was a really good video, or man, this workout was really difficult. The same way we would use it before, we can use that moving forward. But if there's anything else we can make it easier, really the website is kind of the easy way to go. It does have an app for both iOS and Android, and we put up a couple posts for that, but essentially it goes to the website as well. Just makes it a little bit easier to get to from your homepage on your phone, on your cell phone, or that sort of thing. But really, it's a really strong way to host a forum, and it allows us to bring information to you kind of all hours of the day. And I guess jumping on that, there is a page for those riders that are in the lab that will allow you to get the workouts that work in Zwift as well. So if you haven't reached that, reach out to us. And I guess before we talk about that, I'm going to pass it over to Ian and talking about some of the tech issues that we had over the weekend last week after the coaches corner. So Ian, why don't you bring us to that, and then I'll circle back with this.
Yeah, Jason, no worries. So we've had a number of different issues. Some of them were updates from Zwift. Some of them were other issues with their other platforms. But what I really want to cover here is that sometimes people are having issues connecting Trainingpeaks and Zwift and getting their workouts to show up. one of the key issues with that is making sure that the workout you want to do that day is shown that day in Trainingpeaks, and load that, make sure that's on Trainingpeaks on the right day before you open Zwift. Because once Zwift is open, it connects over and it won't update where your workout is if you move the workout after Zwift is already open. So that's the first thing. Then the second part of that is if you're not seeing it communicating from Trainingpeaks to Zwift, you can go and check out one of the videos we have on there that show you how to verify that you're linked. And if you're linked and it's still not working, then you can use one of the other videos we have on the Endurance Lab. They'll show how to download the .zwo file, and then you can put that into your Zwift workouts folder. And we have all the videos that show how to do that. And that way you'll have that forever. The other side of this is once the day is passed with Trainingpeaks, if you've already gone by it, you can't go back to that workout in Zwift unless you move that workout to that day, or you've added the .zwo file to your workout folder on Zwift. So if you did a workout from 4 or 5 weeks ago that you want to do again and it's not there, that's why. So you need to put that .zwo file, and you can always go back into your Trainingpeaks and download or export those .zwo files. So that's not an issue for you. If you want it to automatically go over, it's got to be on that day before you open Zwift. That's the first part.
Right.
The second part is how we're going to record our workouts. Sometimes Zwift doesn't talk to the other kids in the playground. Sometimes the other kids in the playground don't talk to Zwift. Well, so me personally, I record a number of different ways. I recorded on my Wahoo Element Bolt, and then I recorded on Zwift. So what that means for me is sometimes things will get uploaded multiple times through Garmin Connect if I'm also using my watch while I'm running, or direct to Trainingpeaks on my Wahoo Bolt, or through Zwift to Trainingpeaks. So I have to go in and delete out a workout or two. It can be a little bit annoying, but I found that's the best way I can do it to ensure that my workouts always get recorded. And if you're sitting in a pen, for example, before a race or before a workout and you're riding, having that on your computer gives you a more accurate depiction of your TSS for your time on the bike that day. Even if you're just riding easy, you're still riding for 10 or 15 extra minutes. And right now we're trying to be pretty cognizant of what we're doing. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to your different training tools. Make sure that if you're using them, that if they talk through Garmin Connect to Trainingpeak, or Zwift to Trainingpeaks, or Zwift to Strava, Trainingpeaks to Strava, you want to actually try and manage that. If you're like me and don't really care about Strava, then you don't care that you have the same ride up 7 different times because you recorded on 7 different devices. But it's there for you. And the last part of that is if you are just using Zwift to record it and your system crashes out for whatever reason, you can usually find the ride in 2 different places. One will be your activities folder on your computer, and the other one will be on the Zwift.com website. You can go and usually find your ride there, download it to your computer, and then re-upload it into Trainingpeaks. Their video this weekend that shows how to manually add a file, because I do it all the time.
Yeah, I think we're finding more and more a lot of riders are having a recording, via their Garmin, and I think they're just getting really solid data and something that just always works because it's what you do when you go outdoors. It's what you can record the same data while you're indoors, and it just gets you into that habit. And that's the data that they use, and everything comes from their Garmin, and they're just getting the most solid information, and they just load it after. With all the options of automatically loading stuff, it's great, but a lot of times you just want the same way, like we want everyone to be using the same power source if they can for all their workouts. Where the data coming from, for example, from your Garmin, the same data kind of source would be the best. So that's definitely something to take away from that. And then I guess circling back for the workout files, they are available. Reach out to us. It's from your Getting Started page. You should have got it when you added yourself to the Endurance Lab forum. So there is a link there, and I've kind of repeated that link out there. So if you need it, reach out to us and let us know. All right, so I'm going to pass it on over to Taya to talk a little bit about some of the topics that she felt were really hot this week in the Endurance Lab forum.
So I wanted to mention target power for the workouts. Obviously, as you get into the workout and loading that file into Zwift and being in workout mode, you're going to have the computer tell you which power to use for each of the intervals. And just wanted to clarify that even if you have a little bit of variation, if your power varies a little bit, 5 watts, 10 watts up or down, you're still working within the prescribed range. So don't worry too much about getting the stars, or if you're out of erg mode, and this is something we talked about last week as well, to use erg or not to use erg. If you're out of erg mode and you find that your power is varying quite a bit, it's okay. You're still within the range. You're still getting the stimulus for that particular workout. And this becomes important also as you move forward into next week. Next week's workouts are going to have a lot of spikes. And the first workout is the threshold mix. The changes are so quick. On that one, the recommendation is that you use erg, and I'll have the video about it. But then the second one is tempo with surges. So on that one, don't use erg. Go with your gears. And again, if you're not exactly at the prescribed power for the surges, it's okay. You're close enough. You're still having the same stimulus through trying to reach that effort and defaulting back at tempo when you come back from the surge. The other topic that came up is understanding the main numbers in your Trainingpeaks workout summary. So this is for a basic account. As you look at your workout, there is a table there that shows IF, TSS, and what are
Normalized power,
numbers? Right, and normalized power, NP. What do all of those mean? If you haven't seen that post on the forum, take a look at it. There's a quick explanation. It's a good overview of the effort that you have put out for the particular workout. And it shows also why average power isn't that important. A lot of riders like to, even when they have a rest block in a workout, they like to bring the power up because they want to have a high average for the ride. Or if they're riding zone 2, they're a little bit worried about their average power. Average power really doesn't tell the whole story or the full picture of how hard you might have been working out. So interesting numbers to start to learn as you train more with power. Take a look at those and feel free to ask any questions as well. And the last topic here is, Jason, do you have a
No, I was just going to say that with Trainingpeaks, and even if it's just the basic account that you guys, a lot of you are using, these are the skills that we'll be passing along, that even in the basic module, that you'll be able to learn and use and be able to get an understanding of what training you're doing and what you're getting out of each workout. So just look forward to that and kind of understanding more and more of our metrics versus just this is how many hours I rode. So look for that moving forward. So you were saying in the Zwip module?
Yes. Just a heads up that we are having some of the workouts in the workout module in Zwift, where the coaches are leading the workouts live. So I post that as well, the schedule. I know it's hard to attend to every single time zone, but we have quite a bit of workouts every week. So check those out, and perhaps you can join us in one of them.
We've definitely gotten some good attendance to our group workouts. So if you have a time zone that isn't getting filled, reach out to us and let us know, and we could see if we can reach out to other ride leaders to be able to ride it. We have ride leaders that are also doing the lab. So if there's one that may work for another group, just let us know. We know everyone lives internationally, and that's the one thing great about the lab. It brings such different personalities to the group. But if you need another time, reach out. Maybe someone else also needs around that time. So let us know. All right, so really interesting topic here to wrap this portion up is I'm going to pass this over to Mitch to talk a little bit about the maintenance considerations, especially here in the winter. It's starting to get cooler. Everybody's in their pain caves, and kind of how to kind of maintain that. So Mitch, take it away. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency for us to think, all right, I'm indoors, I'm not outside, the bike's not getting dirty, I'm not riding on gravel, and I'm in rain, and I don't have a sport drink falling on it. But really, you've got a huge consideration this time of year, and it's sweat. We've got fans on us, but the sweat's got to go somewhere, and a lot of the time it's pooling in different places on the bike that it wouldn't be if we're riding outside and we've got a real kind of wind pulling that sweat off of us. So depending on your level of comfort, there's a few ways you approach this, and I'll start with you need to be wiping your bike down really every time you work on it. So get a good rag and wipe down the bike. Places where you're not thinking, your brakes, your front brake especially, you're leaning over the handlebars and that sweat's kind of pooling in that brake caliper. So just wipe it down. Pedals and shoes, I actually did some research on this, and And people have found that with a lot of indoor cycling, their cleat is rusting where the bolts are. So make sure that you're regularly cleaning your shoes and kind of inspecting that. Same thing with the pedals, wiping them down and putting a little bit of extra lube on. Those are really the easy things, right? Wiping down the surface of the bike, make sure we get the sweat off when we are done working out. Now, I know a lot of people probably aren't really comfortable with bike maintenance. So some of these next ones are a little bit more difficult, but what I would suggest is that you either look at your local bike shop, or even REI has classes on like easy bike maintenance that you can do, and will really get you a little bit more comfortable. And with a few tools, you can actually do a lot more. So we all know that the headset with the handlebars, headset is a really kind of strategic area. It's right below us while we're cycling. A lot of sweat is dropping in that area. And you'll notice if you've ever done some bike maintenance after you've been cycling indoors for a long time, there's quite a lot of rust sometimes in the spot. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you take that apart periodically, clean it, and put some extra grease. Depending on your handlebars, you may have some moisture issues there, but really be taking that bar tape off and cleaning that and putting it back on every 6 months or maybe even 12 months. Bottom bracket. I know a lot of people are really scared with the bottom bracket. I was always afraid to really mess around with the bottom bracket of the bike until I got a crank-based power meter, and I've gotten really comfortable, and it's really not that hard to do. You may need a torque wrench, but like I said, get some basic maintenance classes at your local bike shop or REI, and you want to be working on your bottom bracket, making sure that the moisture is not getting in there and that it's well greased and cleaned. And then I actually found this one interesting too, is your cables sometimes can get a little bit of moisture in them for your brake and your gears. And a little bit of grease at either end of the cable housing can be helpful to keep that moisture out and to keep them working. So really the takeaway here is indoor cycling in the winter, we get a lot more sweat pooling on the bike. Sweat is kind of nasty at the end of the day. It does bad things to the bike. So you want to wipe it down. You want to be cleaning the different parts we talked about, lubing them and greasing them where appropriate, and get some basic bike maintenance classes if you can. And the real easy thing here is a tub of baby wipe. Just put it in your paint cave, and when you're done, wipe down your.
I'll mention too that I have resourced to GCN videos for basic bike maintenance. They have outstanding videos. They have you can select by topic even. I was having this noise at the bottom of I thought it was the bottom bracket, etc. Those are really helpful as well.
Yeah, and I think some of those resources we could definitely share with the group, because a quick routine thing that you do when you get off the bike, like Mitch was mentioning, you grab the baby wipe, you do the top two, the bottom two, the front brakes, and you store your shoes in a way that they can dry. That sort of thing could be very, very useful. And don't forget our trainers, making sure you're cleaning those up, because parts of the chain, little pieces of metal, those are all going to be flying all around. Whether you use a smart trainer or not, there's still parts that are getting worn. So making sure that we are going through and looking at all of those is very, very important as well. Some really great tips, Mitch. That was awesome. So maybe we could kind of maybe put that together in a post and put some of those topics so that other people could also kind of go back to that. That'd be great. The information you presented today. That's awesome.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. Yeah. So we're gonna move over to On the Horizon. And so this is a part of the Coach's Corner where we talk about what's coming up next week, what's coming up kind of even further than that. Everyone's in the lab. We're in our second week. We're about halfway through the 6 weeks here. What are we going to do after this? Where are we building for? And how are we going to kind of proceed and go forward? So Taya, tell us what we have on the horizon, and what do all of our lab riders or our new riders listening in have to look forward to in the coming weeks?
Starting with next week, so we're going to continue working on Sweet Spot and some Cadence variants, but really the focus next week will be, we're going to have 2 workouts that work over-unders. So being over threshold, just over threshold, and just under threshold. Lots of variation. Those should be really fun workouts. Again, when you look at the normalized power, going back to what the summaries mean, right, and your numbers mean in Trainingpeaks, each of those blocks will be the equivalent of Sweet Spot, even though you're doing over-unders. When you look at the normalized powers for each of the blocks, they're typically 10, 12 minutes long. You'll be working at 90%. So that's the theme overall for the upcoming week. And this lab, if you have done other labs with higher intensity workouts in different times of the year when you're preparing for a race, for example, an 8-week lab typically would have 2 weeks or 3 weeks of high intensity work and 1 week where we take the intensity down to be able to recover, get stronger, and move on to the following week as the lab goes on as a build. This one, because we're looking at a transition phase and we're looking at building the strength without the intensity, and also off the bike strength, we don't have rest weeks. What we do have is a slow progression into spending more time at sweet spot, spending more time at being able to hold that power that will make you stronger, that we talked about at the beginning of the Coach's Corner here. And really overall, as you think of this lab and going forward, the next phase would be what we call a base phase. So building up from where we are today at the end of this lab, there will be on the next phase a steady increase in volume to boost that aerobic endurance as we move closer to the outdoor season. So working on force and speed skills continue to be important and will provide a strong foundation so that the athletes can successfully accomplish all the higher intensity that will come up later on into going into spring of next year as the training year progresses. So really doing this right now that we are in this lab is a foundation for getting stronger and faster later on in the year when you need to.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to kind of have some perspective of where we are starting and where we're going to. I think this is probably for a lot of riders, they almost keep their in-season mentality on their off-season, even though they tell everybody they're in their off-season. You know, they're racing 2 times a week. They're really getting out and doing some high anaerobic efforts. So I think it's important that, we really step back like we have, and having these strength workouts and these daily things that we can do will really help us in this preparatory phase, as well as we move into the base phase. So, especially for me and a lot of our athletes, a lot of times we're telling them to do less, right, guys? Like to back off, to focus on this versus that. And I think that's something that, as we give perspective moving forward, I think that is going to be very, very useful for all of them. So
yeah,
okay.
definitely.
Go ahead.
Definitely, Jason. You have to take these periods throughout your year, just to develop strength that you may have lost during the regular season, to work on weaknesses, to let your body and your brain recover too, because people may not think about it, but if you're hitting VO2 max workouts 2, 3, 4 times a week, racing 2 or 3, 4 times a week, you're taxing yourself pretty mentally, even though you just think you're taxing yourself physically. And that's why this is part of that. Hey, let's get everything back in order before we really start hitting it hard going into the season.
And it's not like you're not working, right? You're still working. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about these sweet spot workouts, for example, for this lab, this is solid work that you're doing. So it's really just a shift in the type of work. It's not like that all of a sudden you threw the towel and you're got your feet up and you're, looking at the pool and hanging out all winter long.
No, yeah, definitely. With that, even myself, coming off a really big build of 8, 9 months, and I'm sure Ian can speak to this as well. He does it yearly. Is that it takes a couple weeks to kind of be okay with doing less and be okay with focusing on things, just as ourselves, even as coaches, to transition everybody. So it does take some weeks. We're only in the second week and learning this new groove of kind of what we're doing. And that's what we're here for. The community is here to kind of, lean to us to be able to do that sort of thing. So really, really great there. So, all right. So as we wrap up here, definitely if you get a chance, we talked about jumping on the forum. We're talking about, reaching out to us if you have any comments or questions, jumping into the Endurance Lab forum, like I said, and getting these workouts done. If you have questions, I really, really want to hear from you. We can answer them here in the Coach's Corner. We can answer them in the forum as well. So anything else from the coaches here?
I would just say about the forum, we're coaches, right? We're so excited about training and talking about training and all of that stuff. So take advantage of it, because if you throw something in there, we'll jump at it.
Yeah,
I
a lot of
agree.
us are. Yeah, a lot of us are on there. We've got our topics. We don't want to kind of overwhelm with the things that we have in our head or the conversation that we're having. But if it's something that you feel that is important, definitely speak out, and we can definitely bring in resources to help answer those questions. All right. Well, that's it for the Coach's Corner that we have today. I want to thank everybody listening in. Don't forget, you can listen to us or watch us on the YouTube channel. So check the YouTube Endurance Lab YouTube channel out, or go to your favorite podcast app and search The Endurance Lab. And you can find all of our content, including the Coach's Corner, in the podcast form as well, so you can listen at any time of the day. So from the coaches here, from the Coach's Corner and Endurance Lab, train smart, learn more, get results. Find us, endurancelab.fit, and we will see everybody next week. We are